So the same day that my mom broke into the prison, I actually broke into another organization. We hit multiple sites. I think there was 5 or 6 sites that we hit that day. And I showed up and I had like glasses. I had eye surgery years ago, but I had some old glasses, popped the lens out, put on glasses, and I buttoned my shirt up all the way. And I had like these crap old Cisco 2600 routers that were just ancient. And I just threw them in a bag, a rolling bag behind me. And I went up to the location. It was a fit, so like no one was there. So I showed up and I pretended to be an intern that was working with the local university, and I was interning with the group, and they wanted me to come in and do some network equipment. They totally let me in. Like the guy let me in, asked me all kinds of questions. So you're in school for computers? And I'm like, yep, I am. And just completely let me in. I was able to get in and take lots of pictures for proof that I was there, and then I left. A couple of weeks later, we were doing the debrief, and we started walking through what we did successfully to these various locations and how we actually got in. And I'm in the room with the guy that let me in. Like he's in the attendance. And beforehand, I'm sitting there, we're talking to him, we're having coffee or whatever. And he's like, so you have a computer security company here? And I'm like, yeah, I've got a computer security company here. And he goes, you know what? There's an intern. He's actually interning at University X. I met him a couple of weeks ago. I think he would be really great to come in, like work at your company to do these types of things.
You're like, yeah, I know him. He's me.
No, at that point you got to do the full Superman thing where you rip off the thing in the shirt, you put the glasses back on.
Put the glasses back on.
I was just waiting. Like, I love that your ideal, ideal disguise. Go ahead.
The Superman reveal is too good.
But so we start doing the meeting, and I start gaining access to it. And the lady that's in charge, the like CTO, she starts freaking out. She's like, "Who let you in?" Well, Bill actually let me in. Bill's like, "No, I never saw you, never once. You did not come in." And I'm like, "No, Bill, it was the 5th of July. You let me in." He's like, "The only person that I let in that day was an intern from the IT department. That is it. He's the only guy." And I'm like, that was me. No. He had glasses.
How are you getting these pictures of Spider-Man? How can you get these?
Glasses on. He kind of got freaked out, and then the lady that was in charge of that building kicked us out, and turns into a whole nother story at that point. But that was probably one of my faves. Oh my gosh!
I love how your ideal like disguise for an IT intern is like, yeah, I'm gonna get a button-up shirt, button it all the way up, knock the lenses out of some glasses, and put those on. Perfect IT intern disguise.
Another one of my buddies did the same thing. It was at another. It was actually an IT company. Anyways, and super long story short, he got into this like server room that was like really, really guarded. Like there's only like 2 people who have access, and on the report review call, they're like, "How did you do this?" And they're like, "Oh, I cloned this guy's badge." "Which badge did you clone?" It was yours.
Crap. Kind of on that note, and then we'll get started. So the lady that kicked us out of that specific facility, right? So she was like the lead technical person at that facility. She kicked us out because she didn't hear our story. She said that we broke the law. She started arguing with people higher up the chain. It was a nightmare. We were also doing a regular pen test, and we got access to their video conferencing system. And we were able to jump in on the video conference where they were talking about the physical pen test. And this lady and this guy started ripping on Black Hills Information Security. So they're like, yeah, these guys are just a bunch of script kiddies. They're not that good at anything. So we were screenshotting that exact meeting while they were talking, and that was going into the report at the exact same time. So it was pretty good. All right, should we get this thing rolling?
Yeah,
sure.
All right, let's do this. Since we got BS.
Are you taking lead or Ralph?
I'm going to let Ralph take lead. I've been nothing but doing recordings in my basement. That sounds dirty.
More on that later.
Oh, wow. Starting high, right? Let's fly this plane.
Let's do it. So, Ralph, you're driving this time.
Right.
Let's go.
Oh, we can't hear you. You're cutting out.
Just like that, everything goes to hell. Like right
What?
on, Dave. We get picking music.
Wait,
and
was
Ralph's
John?
He's an ASMR.
Maybe that
What?
echo canceling thing is cutting your mic off from the music, Ralph.
No, if there were rails, there are.
Well, that was a really good start, huh?
It went great. Let's try that again.
I was going to
Ralph,
recommend that I do the
change-
voice and you just move your mouth. And
Change
I'll-
nothing and do it again. Change nothing and do it again.
Is
It'll
my
work.
audio not working?
No, it's working.
No, it's going now.
Okay.
I think it was the echo cancellation. So maybe either turn that off or YOLO it or
Oh
just
yeah,
go for
I
it.
just won't get any closer or any louder. How does that work?
There we go.
Right?
All right. Okay, we're gonna roll again in 3.
We're gonna try it again. Welcome to Black Hills Information Security, talking about the news. I'm your host today, Ralph May. Hopefully my mic is working again. Give me a second. Oh yeah, air claps. We've got a all-star cast today. We've also got some interesting stories, maybe Spring for Shell or the dumpster fire that wasn't. We also have some more Okta news because why not? And anonymous, ransomware, crypto, you know how it goes, all the fun stuff. So we have, I'll go around the room here. We have Ryan, who hopefully makes me sound good. I don't know. We'll have to debate about that. It's probably all my fault. We also have Ian is on as well. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. We have Noah in his new blue room, hacking Zillow and home sales. If you want to know, ask him more. We also have Corey, who's also has a little blue going on. And,
not doing a physical pen test like John while I'm on the webcast.
Yes. And then we have John, who is on a physical right now. He's actually doing a pen test. It's weird because he's holding a laptop while he's doing it. Which
He's being chased by security guards, we think.
Yeah.
We're
If
not
we
sure.
lose him, we know why. It's because he got arrested.
The story of how John broke his laptop while on a webcast running through his house.
It's the
I'm
weirdest
just actually
Blair Witch
surprised that
project.
Oh my
I've
gosh,
ever
I
seen.
think he's gotten into the data center. It looks like.
He's
Made it.
testing the Wi-Fi.
I'm in the data center. Right
I'm
here.
in. All right, we'll patch you in. Don't
I'm
cut the
in.
hard line.
All right, everybody. This is day one of the endless pen test. I'm in the HVAC room.
Put your shark
All
tap
right.
in there.
What's that?
Put your shark tap in that network patch panel behind
Yeah.
you.
The,
Wait a minute. I found
Get
something.
your Hack 5 gear out.
I found something. Is this important?
Oh my god.
Oh my God. It looks
a little
old.
more down, John. We can't see the Windows 95 menu yet.
Wait.
Oh God. Oh man. Oh God. It looks.
Is this bad?
Oh god.
Depends on how you mitigated it.
bad.
LM hashes have entered the chat.
I just
Yeah,
really like
all the
the
hashes, they start with AADB3. I don't know. But
What's great about the room you're
goddamn
in
chair up here.
is at the time it took that entire room to run that PC.
Yeah.
Put the whole thing in there.
Yes.
Okay. I was just trying to find a place with better internet connectivity, and I
You
did.
found it. You found the mainframe, so.
You found the mainframe. Actually, goal
I did. I
attained.
found
Go
the
ahead and write that
mainframe.
report.
So, did that.
So that was the most interesting thing we're going to talk about all day. I don't know. About
Yeah, I don't. What else did you guys want to talk about? I think that was it.
What else are we gonna do? Did you guys see the size of that toilet? Thing was huge.
I don't think that's human sized.
Yeah.
I want a break-in video of where in the world is John Strand? He's in
Yes.
a building somewhere. and we
Honestly,
know
I don't
where
even think he
is.
knows.
I think we could add that to the news.
At
Like
this
we could
point,
like go
it's
live to
probably
John
not.
on site.
Yeah.
Office I could use down here that had better connectivity. So
Oh yeah. You might not get your stapler back, man.
all right, let's
so
go.
wait.
What stories do we have?
Yeah, we have a couple. We have a couple things. Do you guys want to talk about the Spring 4J?
Spring 4J
Yeah,
or
we can
the
spring
old
for that one.
Okta reincarnation version 7.9.
So I guess Spring 4J never really turned into anything. It was the 0-day vulnerability in the Spring framework, but I actually saw some news about it, and then nobody said anything. Like no, the world wasn't on fire. Has anyone got any more intel on this vulnerability?
Now, I did some reading on it, and obviously tracking it just in the day gig, and constant noise from Twitter, like, oh, it's coming, it's another log4j, it's going to ruin your lives. So I'm like, it's not Christmas. We're not due for another world-ending vulnerability present.
It's not Christmas.
But in the end, it ended up being, okay, yeah, this is bad. You definitely do want to go update your frameworks and make sure that you're not one of the organizations that you have to have like 4 or 5 very specific things going on. Like you have to be on Java 9+, you have to have your Apache running in like a containerized commandlet. You have to have like all these different things happening. And you should definitely, if you're in an organization, check and make sure like, hey, are we running this vulnerable version? Do we have this set up this way? Do we have this version of Java? And if we do, prioritize that. But the news like took off with it, and then researchers kind of said, well, this and that, not really, and everyone kind of went back. So that's what I got from it. What did y'all get from it?
Somewhere out there's a developer that's like, when Log4Shell happened, he was like, we have to ditch Java. We have to ditch Java. And right now he's like, I was right. But yeah, I mean, kind of lackluster. I'm not.
I do wonder sometimes with these Java things, like, Log4j, it's like, all right, who the hell wrote the Spring framework that's vulnerable? And the Log4j guy is like, it was me. Sorry again. That was me. Oops, I did it again. It's like, no.
Oh, I accidentally did that in my free product that no one's helping me with.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
No support from in the community whatsoever.
These vulnerabilities where you have to have like a perfect storm, right? So like 4 things all have to line up with actually.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds
You're
like that
cutting
would
out again.
be the case.
Yeah.
Ralph, you're cutting out again.
Turn off your echo cancellation, Ralph.
All
Put
right,
some
I'm doing
headphones
it.
on.
We don't need echoes.
Yeah, you guys chat while I find headphones.
Yeah, I got Caprico 1 in there saying, doesn't it require some config? Yeah, it does seem like the Spring for Shell or whatever we're calling it. It's so terrible because I keep hearing Spring for Shell and I keep thinking of Springtime for Hitler from the producers.
In Germany.
And I'm like, that is not where my brain should go. And yet here we are.
Springtime for Java in Germany. There we go.
I can't believe the other thing that was, interesting is it leaked on Twitter, and then the hacker, whoever leaked it, took down the screenshot of it because apparently sharing vulnerability information publicly without government approval is a crime in China. Who knew?
Yeah, because they want dibs. So,
You're supposed to sell it to them, not tweet it.
yeah. Samantha was asking about the GitLab vulnerability, the hard-coded credentials.
Ooh, I didn't see that one.
To be honest, when I saw this one come out, I actually was more afraid of this one. Because, Git is where everything is.
There was like 6 vulnerabilities that they talked about. I didn't see the hard-coded credentials one that was part of the CVEs, but I do know that was like a patch now kind of scenario, right?
Yeah.
Especially for publicly exposed GitLabs.
Yeah, there was too many of them. But they did actually get
We do actually have an article for it.
Yeah, we have an article. It's apparently users who were created using OmniAuth-based registration, which is like registering through OAuth, LDAP, or SAML, or other external auth providers.
It's only those 3.
Oh. Well, I mean, they do have an internal auth, but who would use that, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know if that one was that actually seen being exploited in the wild? I don't think it was. I think it was something that they discovered and they fixed it. So.
Yeah.
No evidence of any accounts being compromised, but that just means the attackers deleted the logs while they were in there. So.
Yeah.
They made a pull request to pull the logs.
Yeah,
like
we don't need these if we can just public.
Like we can't scrub Git. It's too hard.
It's too hard. There's just too many repos.
Just start a new repo.
Yeah.
Forked it.
All right. What else do we got? So what happened with with Okta. You said that Okta wasn't dead. We have a story on.
It's not dead. The spreadsheet did not contain passwords. I feel like we're getting to like politician level. Like it was consensual. I wasn't involved.
Yeah.
The spreadsheet did not contain passwords. That's definitely like a thing that every CSO should practice in the mirror before they go to work. Like, stand in front of the mirror, look directly at the camera. The spreadsheet did not contain passwords.
There
Okay.
was no passwords.
All right,
in
you've
the
got that
spreadsheet.
one down for today. You can check into work.
Oh,
What?
man. Oh, wait, hold on. And then they also, and now people are also blaming the Okta breach on legacy network from
Yes.
acquisitions, right? I mean, like, is blame shifting, practicing that saying that no passwords were in the.
Who's their PR firm on this?
It's just some 16-year-old kid that breached their Twitter account 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Just kidding. I have no
I
idea.
was gonna say, whoever it is, it's the same ones that Ubiquity uses, probably.
This
It's HQ Gary.
I can't wait for them to come out with another press release. This PR firm does not speak for us.
I keep wondering, like, there's been some examples of some attacks that have had pretty good PR and the way it was handled in the community. And it's not like we don't have templates on how to do this, right? So with these PR firms, are they just like, well, let's not do that? You know what? I got a really good friend at Equifax, and I just want to say things turned out fantastic for them. Let's follow that as well.
That'd be a
so
great
I mean,
billboard.
basically, at this point, if you read it, it's probably something that either the PR team hasn't seen yet or they haven't responded to it yet. Because it's pretty much just coming from every direction, no control over the message, no control over the different investigations, and kind of a good case study for future PR people to study on how not to do it.
Yeah. And speaking of bad PR, Noah talked about, he basically had an article he just kicked up about Ubiquity, deciding that they think out of all of their options of what they could do, they decide that trying to sue Brian Krebs
perfect idea. Yeah, that's
is
what I would
a
have went with.
good idea
Yeah.
in this day and age.
It was his fault.
Well,
Yeah.
John, hold on. Here's the thing. Ubiquity wants to be a Cisco competitor, right? And the only way you become a true competitor to Cisco is by suing security researchers while you're on the come up. This is a known thing in this vertical. You
Yeah.
find the blackout researcher, you sue them, you put your brand on it, you're good.
They're following
That's old
manual.
Cisco. That's old Cisco. New Cisco, they buy the company, so they should Ubiquity should buy Brian Krebs's holding
By
company,
Brian Krebs.
and somehow, and then just turn it into like a subscription service. I don't know.
Brian
So the
Krebs
best
subscription.
story about Cisco out there, if you can find it, is Josh Wright's story whenever he wrote the tool Asleep, where he attacked the lightweight extensible authentication protocol attack tool. And basically it has a lot to do with MS Chat v2 being utilized, and you can do a rainbow table style attack against the authentication. And he talks about it, and the way he discusses it, he's like, all of a sudden I start hearing helicopters coming in, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? Why are helicopters surrounding my house? And then ropes drop down into his front yard, and lawyers come down one-handed on these ropes. And the reason they're one-handed is because in their other hand they have their briefcases.
Yeah.
Massive briefcase.
Yeah.
He just talks about just how incredibly traumatic it was to deal with Cisco. And then the worst thing is, like, the vulnerability was in the protocol. And this is something that I think we need to develop a webcast on, or for forever days. Like, it's not something you just patch and it's fixed. It's like remember, group policy preference files. Those are still things that we find in some domains because a patch doesn't fix that. It's similar to that, and it just doesn't go away. And you still find wireless networks today that are using Leap, and you can use Asleep against them still. So yeah, I mean, it just seems like it's a really, really, like, a pair of stories that are just the wrong way to handle the public perception of your organization being
Well,
hacked.
especially because with the Ubiquity breach, like, they didn't handle it great, but more or less the community was kind of like fine. They were like, whatever. But now they're doing this, and it's like
Right.
you're just making it worse for yourself. If you would have said nothing at all, you would have been more ahead.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone's incident response checklist should be step 1, identify the problem. Step 2, let the lawyers sue the messengers. All of them.
Yeah.
Just let them off the chain. Let them go. Sue whoever you
They
want.
misunderstood when they said eliminate the problem.
Yes.
They didn't mean like eliminate evidence of the problem. They meant fix it.
Step
Bill,
0.
what are you doing with the sniper rifle?
You said eliminate.
the problem. Doesn't that mean you want me to kill the security researcher? No, Bill. Now's not the time to kill.
Bill, put down the javelin. I know you got them cheap on eBay. Get out of here.
Put down the javelin, Bill.
Bill, how many dead security researchers do we have to hide before you know what we're saying?
He's a good guy. As Hart, Bill's a great guy. He's got a little bit of a murder problem, but
He takes care of
now,
problems.
I've got a question. Have we ever once in this industry had a situation where a security researcher released a vulnerability and it didn't end well? I'm thinking about, one of the early guys in Perl, I can't remember his name. He did some password cracking, I think in like Oregon, and he was working for Intel at the time, and he got sued. I can't remember his name, and that was bad. That took him a long time to get his record expunged. But like recently, just by releasing vulnerabilities or talking about vulnerabilities publicly, I can't think of a single situation where it's like, oh yeah, that worked out well for the company that sued that person. I don't know where the hell they're getting their data on where they think this is the best path. I mean, and I guess this opens up another question for you all. I don't think we have it in the news stories because I honestly don't know what they are. But if you guys noticed the number of vendors that are talking about how they won the MITRE attack evaluations and had 100% coverage of all the MITRE stuff. I know Ian and I have been going back and forth on Twitter on it. I think it's time to bring back sacred cash cow tipping.
It was never time to stop.
Yeah.
Well, it was. The last time that we did it, we put out an email to all the testers and we said, should we continue doing this? And none of you were working here at that time, ironically enough. And Egypt and myself and a couple of other people, we had a conversation. We were like, it's probably time to bury this because it seems like everyone knows that endpoint products have problems. And with all these vendors saying that they're 100% effective, it's starting to make me think that it's time to dust off the Batman cape and do it again. And every time we do it, we have AV vendors that start to rumble about suing Black Hills Information Security for it. And God, that would be fantastic. That would be like some of the best press we could ever hope for. So the point is, has it ever worked out well for a company to take this approach? I can't think of anything.
I think the scary thing is that like if we're playing this like D&D style, so like the spell is like sue and the counter spell is like I have an audience and they're mad at you now, right? Like,
Yeah.
But really the thing that's scary to me is for certain people, especially like smaller security researchers, they probably don't have the audience to go like yell at the company. Like so they probably are, drowning in this stuff and can't really do much about it because they don't have a huge Twitter following to be like, everyone, please help. And then like internet lawyers are getting in, so I worry,
So back to John's question of like when recently has someone been sued by a big company and it not turned out well, like we may not know.
Exactly. It's like a selection bias. Yeah.
I almost disagree because if you look at this industry of something, unless that person just decides to keep it quiet and suffer silently, which that totally can be something that happens, right? We can't prove that one way or the other. Even if they don't have a huge Twitter following, you reach out to like a handful of people on Twitter and that message will get amplified very quickly. Like if you look at people like Tara, you look at people like Malware Jake, you look at people like Ian and myself. If somebody's a security researcher and they're like, I went to Oracle, Cisco, somebody, and I released this vulnerability and now they're suing me, we're going to ask some questions, but we will happily amplify that message. It will blow up quickly in the face of that company. So I don't know. You're right. It's entirely possible that there's people that are being sued and they're just deciding just to keep it real quiet and be like, well, I'm not doing that again. But I doubt
because they wouldn't do it if it didn't work, right? Like the bean counters and the do we pop our retainer on this or do we use it?
Well, I don't think it's necessarily they wouldn't do it and they wouldn't because it wouldn't work. I think that's the only hammer they have, right? That's the tool that they have.
Right. Yeah.
It's not like, what do we have at our disposal? Basically doing like a responsible coordinated disclosure plan, working with the vendor, working with the researcher, getting this fixed. As Katie always says, don't hate the researcher, hate the vuln, focus on the right thing. Those are all tools that are completely foreign to attorneys, right? They only know the let's sue button. That's it.
Yeah.
No, there's the old like kind of, I forget which salesperson or motivational speaker said it, and I'll butcher it a little bit, but it's, if you tell me if you show me how someone is measured, I will tell you how they behave. And if lawyers are measured by, successfully litigating or using legal mechanisms to shut down, again, a problem in the organization, then they can say, yes, we were successful in doing this. To John's point, they're not going to go, all right, let me throw my hat in the ring of maybe this weird gray bearded, esoteric plan for responsible disclosure will work. There are very few lawyers that are specialized in that and understand it. Now, you would think some of them might work at Cisco, but maybe not.
Yeah. I don't know. We're not going to solve it here. What else do we have for stories?
So MailChimp got breached, and kind of similar to Okta, speaking of. So, I mean, no surprise here. So it was a social engineering attack that got access to internal, what do you call it? Like internal access to MailChimp's customers as well, which then in turn ended up being a massive phishing campaign to steal crypto. From the likes of people who own tracers, which are hardware crypto wallets and other things like that. Yeah. So it sounds like from what MailChimp says so far, it was an SE attack to get access to an internal customer support and account management systems. So
what is it? It was 319 accounts, but that sounds like a very highly targeted attack. And the Trezor thing, like that's a external hardware crypto wallet.
Yeah.
Damn. Now I'm glad that they went for crypto people, because that could have been much worse with MailChimp. That could have been much, much, much worse. So,
I think we're kind of waiting on the other shoe to drop. I mean, they said a bunch of accounts were compromised, and the only one that we saw get publicly used, at least based on the info we have, is this Trezor attack. So maybe they remediated it after that attack. They went and rolled all the credentials or whatever, but there is the possibility that, there could be more coming.
Yeah, when I read that, it felt a bit like the Capital One breach, where, Capital One took the brunt of the heat in the news, but really it was an S3 bucket breach. And if you read through the news story, it's like also affected was Ford and this and that and da. Yeah. But the crypto wallet's fun because people are like, ooh, crypto wallet, that's crazy.
Stealing money.
Yeah. Ooh.
Well, it's clickbait, right?
Yeah.
But that's absolutely something that a lot of people in America and around the world are going to click on because they are heavily invested in crypto.
The other thing too is that you got to look at how they're trying to monetize it, right? So, I mean, whenever you have an attack, whatever it may be, I mean, unless it's nation state, right? Hot nation state on, action that they're not looking to monetize it, right? They just want that information. Any other attacker that does want to monetize it, this is one way to do it, right? Going after something that you could actually steal, digitally, which is crypto, right? And that's why ransomware and all the other fun things, they're just looking the ways to monetize whatever access or whatever vulnerability that they have, right? So,
I mean, safe to say phishing attacks, well-targeted phishing attacks are going to rise because they exported all the data from whatever they could access. So they have lists of here's what people are subscribed to what list, so they can target it down more than like Nigerian Prince needs your help. It's more like, the Trezor stuff where it's like, you have a Trezor. We know you do because you're on this mailing list. So or here's a more targeted attack.
Or targeted emails to get more access, right? To to other people who work at other companies so they can do another SE to get access to something else, right? One thing leads to another. So
well, you're saying something as I read this story that I think we're seeing more and more of, where whether it be the Twitter API or Twitter employee that they gained all those creds, and it was like all the Bitcoin. Oh, do this.
That was like the weakest social engineering payload of all time.
Right.
Hey, I'm Bill Gates. I'm the richest person in the world. Give me crypto.
But what we're seeing though is these APIs and these other setups like Mailchimp, and I mean we've seen these strange, I don't want to call them strange, but supply chain style attacks where, hey, I'm not going to try and hack the crypto wallet if I can get an API key for Mailchimp and convince 5% of the people to just give me their passwords or whatever it is. These kind of esoteric, around the horn things I think a lot of companies aren't thinking about. Like, oh, well, what's going to happen? They're just going to email our customer base something, and they're hoping it's going to be something lewd. And in reality, it's going to be something that they've got to activate cyber insurance on. So
Well,
I find these stories fascinating.
And I talk about this in a couple of our classes. One of the assessments that we did a number of years ago, kind of tying it in with Okta, and I've talked about this a number of times, but basically Mike and Bo, I think were the two people that are on. It might have been Mike and Joff, I'm not sure. But they had a test where a customer was using Okta. So they basically stood up a 30-day trial of Okta, and they discovered that you could send an email from Okta and you could completely modify the HTML. And you could change it to whatever you wanted that HTML to be, and you could send that email with whatever message you wanted to another Okta customer. And they were able to do a credential capturing attack, targeting Okta, using Okta to send the attack to the organization. Not only did they receive that email, but it was also like flagged as a critical email from Okta because it literally came from Okta. And I use that because, like, Ian, you're absolutely right. That's a definite around the horn type attack, right? It's not like click this link, I own your computer. It's definitely a little bit more complicated. And this Mailchimp one is very similar. Gain access to a list of people in Mailchimp and then send emails to them, letting them know that there's a security breach and they got to reset passwords. I think that we're going to see more and more of these, because as much as I like rage against the EDR vendors and what they did with the MITRE evaluations, the fact is EDR vendors are getting really damn good at protecting the endpoint, and you're starting to see these attacks get pushed off the endpoint more and more into the cloud as we progress. And I don't think the corporations are ready for it at all.
No, I can
Well,
assure you.
yeah.
they're not.
I think it's kind of the new trend also as the kind of rising tide of security rises, like you said. Companies or threat actors are targeting insiders more than they are using. I mean, this one was social engineering, right? But we've seen, I guess many instances of like SIM swapping attacks happening because insiders, if you're making 20K a year at T-Mobile and someone offers you $100,000 to do a SIM swap, right? Like it kind of comes down to the next generation of attacks where, you might be a support tech or like like 1099 tech at Mailchimp and have access to, all these lists and campaigns and stuff because you're just like a ticket jockey or whatever. But, if someone approaches you and says, I'll give you 10 Bitcoins if you just send this campaign, like, you know what I mean? It's kind of crazy. Like, oh, and then they just say, oh, well, my credentials were hacked. Oh, no.
Yeah.
I fell prey to a phishing attack. I clicked the wrong thing. Right. Obviously it's like a privileged access management and access control and all these things. We know how to fix it. It's just hard. If you're a company that has a ton of people that have access to wide swaths of data, which a lot of big tech companies have, I would be like, tossing and turning at night being like the contractors.
Insider threat is a real thing, right? And I think that what you're describing is that, and people can be bribed and there's money out there being issued for these kinds of access. And, for, $100,000, someone might be like, well, I mean, maybe I don't have to take a fall. I get to keep the money and I just have to find another job, right? Like I accidentally click the email. I mean, shoot.
Yeah.
I
need
dude,
more
you don't
remedial
have to
training.
get a new job. You just have to go to security training.
I know. Yeah. You got to go to security training and watch those videos. Oh my God. The worst.
Well, I guess my point overall is that the rising tide does push attacks into these roundabout, weird things that are not traditional, like end-to-end compromises, but like weird roundabout.
And it's funny because we've had some groups that have been moving that way for a while. Like I think DoD IC gigs that I've been tangentially associated with in the past, they gain access to something and you're like, this is brilliant. How the hell did you get access? They're like, we just gave somebody a suitcase full of money to plug in a USB drive and run an executable. Like, well, Why? Oh, it's cheaper than 0 days. Like
It's a lot cheaper.
you could pay someone like $5,000 in ones. It looks like a lot of money, and that doesn't even know on anything. I mean, hell, even in America, people will give you their password for a candy bar. Why write a 0 day?
Sometimes less. I don't know if you've seen that video of people interviewing people about their passwords and like, oh, what's your password? It's like, well, it's my dog's name and the year I graduated from school. Like, oh, that's nice. So, where did you go to school? Oh, I went to such and such school. Oh, yeah. When did you graduate? Oh, this year. Oh, nice. So you have a dog? Yeah, I have a dog. What's your dog's name?
Right with them.
Yeah.
Like, this is a beautiful dog. What's the name of the dog? Sparky.
Yes.
Yes. It's the scene from Sneakers where it's like, you know what word I always found fascinating? Passport. Could you say passport for me? So you get the recording, you know?
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Fun stuff.
So watch your inboxes. Don't click even harder.
Yes. Before it was okay, but now you got to really be cautious.
Lightly
right?
click.
Lightly click. Don't press down too hard. I don't know if you want to talk about this, John. I know it's your favorite subject, but do you want to talk about the PCI 4.0?
Yes, it's about damn time. Their password complexity is now okay. So a few minor gripes. One, they basically are saying that you need to have two-factor for the PCI accessing the PCI systems, which part of me makes my heart hurt because it's still it's almost like whenever there was a conversation. I can't remember who started it. It might have been Katie. That was like, there's a bunch of people that are academics that are teaching people computer security that have never been in the field. And then there were some conversations about, like industry groups. Are they kind of falling for the same thing? And I'm glad that they went to 15 characters for their minimum password length, but they tended to focus on just accessing PCI data. So two-factor authentication for accessing PCI data, 15 character passwords for accessing PCI data. And I want to just be completely honest, that is fantastic. They jumped from 7 characters. Now with 4.0, it's now 15 characters. So I'd like to say welcome from 1985, you time travelers from PCI. You finally discovered things have changed since 1985, and that's great. But I can't really fault them much for the focus on the PCI data. But one of the things as an industry that we have to realize is that whenever we're breaking into environments, you can have that type of control in that environment. But if the rest of your environment has poor security controls, we can ride on top of those poor security controls and still gain access to those sensitive enclaves. So it's definitely a huge step in the right direction. I'm very happy to see it. Hopefully it continues in the right direction. And now there's a customer, I'm talking specifically to you, said customer who said that you would never hire BHIS again. You know who you are. Talking to you now. You remember your 7-character password policy? You remember how quickly we cracked all the passwords in your environment? Do you remember the ensuing argument about how PCI said that it is the standard, so therefore it was not a critical vulnerability, and you're not going to change your password policies until PCI tells you to? It's now time to change your PCI password policy. So just
you mean next year, right? Because it doesn't take effect until next year.
Oh yeah, they've got time. They've got time.
I've got time to ignore it.
Yeah,
ignore it.
Before it's forced upon them. Another thing they actually did in here, which I see a lot, is password reuse for service accounts or other kinds of like systems. They need to be, or password reuse, excuse me, password rotation. So they need to be changed. They says at least once every 12 months, right?
That's going to be tough.
Yeah, but yeah, service accounts and stuff like that, that's actually a really common one because everyone's like, oh, well, I made this password that no one types in ever. But if we change the password, then it breaks all these scripts that we wrote, 4 years ago. And then next thing you know, you have a bunch of service accounts that have passwords that are old enough to drink, honestly. So they're bad. So,
well, and like I said, it's going to be tough for organizations to implement this. But if we go back to pen testers, how many times do we take advantage of service accounts that haven't been changed? Like the passwords haven't been changed in like 6 years. I mean,
6 years, dude. I've had legal drinking age passwords many times.
Yeah.
So
I've seen plenty of passwords that are over 21. I mean, they are getting into all the bars, and they are
Yeah.
definitely
they're
not
doing
very
Jello
technical.
shots.
Yes.
And yeah,
Lemon
Reckless.
drops for
Password.
everybody.
they're down in Vegas with those really long tubes that
Uh-huh.
are just filled with alcohol. Yeah, it's not good. It's not good.
So one other effect I think that this might bring upon is that we can be like, hey, I mean, PCI says that you should have this much. I mean, don't you think that should be the minimum, even if they're not, I guess, technically dealing with PCI data? I feel like it comes up a lot when you get with these like standard or unifying standard bodies, right? Of compliance and other things like that. It's easier to point than just be like, well, we actually crack all the 8 characters. That's why we're saying go higher. Whereas PCI is like, well, we're an organization and we must know what we're doing, right? So.
Well, this gets into, I've actually been like part of the conversations with organizational bodies that are trying to create computer security standards. And I'm the horrible person that as soon as they start the meeting, one of the things I always start with is, why the hell are we doing this? Like, there's literally 56 standards that are out there. You can just find one, pick it, and go with that standard. There's no reason whatsoever for everyone to be here and creating a new standard from whole cloth. Just say, adhere to this one. Like CIS controls is a good one. Let's do that. And then almost inevitably the conversation's like, okay, thanks for that, John. Anybody else have anything they'd like to say? And never get invited back again.
Anyone else that have anything to say that doesn't like undermine our entire existence of being here?
Yes.
And
Everything we started.
And then like a year or two later, I look at the standard, and the standard starts out with, the following are the critical patches that we have decided need to be installed in every single organization. It's like, oh God, they put the patches inside the standard. Why did they do that? It's
like
it's
every
crazy.
Linux patch ever released in Git. They're like, you need to install all of these.
It's usually like 6. And CISA is doing the same thing right now, where CISA is like, here's the top 176 patches that people shouldn't patch. No, CISA, stop. Like, please stop. For the love of God, you're not helping. Because what organizations are going to do is say, those are the only patches we have to install.
I just imagined the cover to a CD called "Now That's What I Call Patching Volume 15."
It has the top hits. MSO 8067 is in there. There's some throwbacks.
That's patching to the oldies.
Yeah.
Patching to the oldies.
Richard Simmons walks out in a pair of short shorts that say "exploit" on them, and so
Oh my God. He's back from the dead. Zombie Richard Simmons is now a computer security professional.
This is what we need on the news here. We need like just these like 1-minute commercials where we make retrospect, like the ADCDs or something like that. But it's the patching.
And the best part is we have our own. The best part is we have our own video team. So Ryan, please get on that.
Yeah, I might have to
get on it right away.
Audio and let Ryan create it, but I did a commercial for Black Hills Information Security years ago. It was like the pen test puppy mills, and it had a bunch of yipping dogs in the background, like puppies. And we were all like, what the hell is this? What are these dogs doing here? It's like, oh, we hired a pen test puppy mill, and now we can't get them out of here. They're like, they're adorable, but they're worthless. It's like, I know. Oh, that one just crapped in the corner. What the hell are they doing? Well, I said, they showed up and they ran next pose, and now they're charging us like $20,000. And I had like this guy from Rapid7 call me up just livid about it. So I might have to pull that one back out. It's an oldie, but a good.
I do have that somewhere.
That one puppy just crapped in the corner. No. That's what we call a finding.
Yeah.
Nice. Now, there are two things before we move off the PCI story that I read and terrified me. It's one of those like, well, we'll see how that turns out. They talk about increased flexibility. Oh, I've got a Randy Savage commercial from B-Sides. I got to share Caprico one. But anyway, the thing that terrified me was they said greater flexibility in the standards that were used. And immediately when I read it, I'm like, quick, short tripwire stock. Because I swear that's the only reason that their FIM product is still around, is all the QSAs that are like, oh, well, you need FIM, and this says tripwire here back in version 3, so go get that.
Yeah.
Can we
having
take you
that
out to dinner?
flexibility is great. It's awesome because not having to rely on the precise standard. What terrifies me is being in a room with a bunch of executives that now feel like they get to interpret the technicality of what this means when going through their audit. And I want to crawl under a table.
And that's
so we have flexibility here. No.
that's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You know that's exactly what's going to happen.
I fear that is true. So
From my perspective, there was already infinite flexibility. As long as you write a big enough check, you can have compliance. But hey,
Ouch. That's cold.
Jonathan asked about our pen tests, and he asked, do we do any like correlations with detections, right? And actually, for a lot of them, we do. It's not every single one, but yeah, we do some correlations to let people know, hey, we did this thing. Did you see this? This activity. So yeah, that's in there.
we get purple.
Yep, we get purple. Yeah, for sure. I guess I don't know if you guys read this one. I thought this was interesting. Apple had a little issue with hackers calling them up and requesting data by pretending to be law enforcement agencies, right?
No, this can't be right. Macs aren't susceptible to viruses, remember?
No, yeah, I know. I know. Now that we're past that, I guess Apple employees are susceptible to hackers, though. So I guess they were calling and forging a legal request. Now, I guess Apple gets a bunch of these, and they kind of just don't really wait too much to like vet it out. But yeah, so I guess they were, this is like breaking like multiple laws at one time. But I mean, I guess if you're in, you're in.
If you're in, you're in.
Yeah. So, what do you guys think about this?
So, like, there's two things. Like, one of my favorite HD Moore stories is we were at one of the old SANS conferences. I can't remember which one with Ed, and we were at Bradley Ogden Steakhouse, and somebody at the table basically said, "Hey, HD, I heard that Metasploit was hacked," and HD was not happy. What the hack actually was, this would have been like 2006 or 7, I think. What the hack was the DNS provider for Metasploit.com, for the domain, received a fax that was basically a change of domain request, and they were able to reroute the traffic from the real IP address to the attacker's IP address. So I can see why HD was frustrated about that. But that's kind of the same thing, right? You're basically trying to get data through standard channels that a normal hacker doesn't go through. There was a payroll processing company that we were tasked to break into, and you could just basically pick up the phone, and you literally just had to pretend you were from a company and say, "Yeah, I need to add in another like employee. Yep, this is his name, this is his social security number, this is his address, here's his bank account information, and yep, his salary is $180,000 a year. You just added an employee, and it took you like 2 minutes." So, this kind of goes back to the non-standard thing that Ian was talking about, going around the way that you think an attacker is going to come at you. And you read this entire story at Apple, it just really reeks of that, right? You're basically attacking the organization, utilizing a channel that they're used to receiving requests from all over the United States. And you just kind of plug right into that channel and you get the data, because that's not the way a hack looks, and it works.
Yeah, I
After
guess...
all, why would bad people impersonate the police?
Yeah,
oh my
exactly.
God! Is that a
yeah, so you got to understand here. I'm here from the law enforcement department of law enforcement here. I need some data from some phones. You'll notice the clipboard and the hat.
Yeah.
So the data, please.
Oh, that's beautiful.
My room is nothing but props. It's
nothing but props. You're set. You're ready for this. It's kind of like, do you guys remember Ghostbusters 2? Where they're digging in the street and they're dropping down into the subway, and there's like the slime going. When the police show up and they get into the shouting match with the police officers, and like, "What am I doing here? What am I doing here? I'm put in a hole in the middle of the street. I'm trying to do my job." That was all real. Like, the cops showed up, and the actors were interacting with real police officers, and the police officers totally just drove away like nothing happened, just because the hard hat and all the stuff.
I didn't know that. That's fantastic.
Kind of funny.
The other thing with that is like, do you want to fill this hole in? Because
do you want to fill the hole in?
I have to go ahead and do a hot attribution and say this had to be 16-year-old kids. like dumb enough to impersonating law enforcement, which is basically how you say like, "Hi, let me get this paintbrush." Yeah, is that a target? Does that look good? Okay,
Yeah.
okay, perfect. But also like the whole like desire to get addresses, phone numbers, IP addresses. Real hackers are like, we don't care who we hack. 16-year-olds are like, we must hack Clayton because he posted a TikTok that made us look bad. And so we need his address and we're going to send him pizzas and whatever. Like,
It's SWAT teams.
Yeah, this is an emergency request to Apple. What's the reason why? Why is it an emergency?
I think we need, at BHIS, we need to start hiring 16-year-olds.
That's how we're going to do it.
We can't cross. Like personal cell phone SIM cloning, we can't do that. But we can just have like this daycare. And we're basically working them up. And when they get to be like 16, it's like, Billy, come over here. All right, so here's what I need you to do. I need you to call Apple pretending to be law enforcement. Isn't that illegal, Mr. John?
Yes, but we have great lawyers that we have just for this purpose.
Here's the thing, Billy. This is going to set your career for the rest of your life. Be arrested. You're helping us. We're helping you.
Once you turn 18, you can no longer be prosecuted for anything you did before. I have the worst lawyers.
I mean, so instead of puppies, you're saying we're going to get like, 1-year-olds, the real wild ones, right? Like,
it's just
all the cute's gone. They're just running fast, man. Like you can't
just be like, look, at this
point.
Look,
launching attacks, doing things that we can't get away with, like ever. It's like, what are you gonna do, kids?
How did you guys get in? We broke laws. Lots of laws.
Yeah, Caprico 1 just said John accidentally laid out how the mob worked in the 70s and the 80s. And by the way, lately I've been saying things like that, and people will like send me an email. Well, I just can't believe that you would recommend using children to do illegal activities. It's a goddamn joke. I would never do that and talk about it on a show on YouTube.
That's right. You'd absolutely make sure they're 18.
Child labor laws in South Dakota are very lax.
Very
lax.
Child labor laws in South Dakota are looser here too.
Yeah, I mean,
you have to be 8 to wield a pickaxe. That's about all they got on the book.
Well, we let everybody drive at 14 years old, so we have a very low regard for human life here.
Interesting.
All right, what else do we got? We got time for one more, I think.
Do you guys want to talk about the bull rat?
An actual remote access Trojan?
The bull rat.
I thought we were going to talk about Ukraine.
We could talk about Ukraine if you want.
I got the one story I love about Ukraine.
Let's go with it. Ian, set us off, sir.
Oh man, okay.
Drive it.
This is phenomenal. It ticks all the boxes. It's like the whole thing from Saturday Night Live. Like, this story's got everything. It's got 3D printing. It's got drones. It's got attaching 3D printed stolen Russian grenades to drones. So Ukraine, it turns out, even back to 2015, had started to develop kind of a network of quadcopter drone civilian pilots. And in the current fight, they are doing, a bang-up job with using these not commercial, but consumer quadcopters up to and including, and in this story here, they've got, kind of photos and video of it, releasing 3D printed STLs that say, if you capture these anti-tank grenades, print these fins so that when you release it from your drone, it'll have like this glide ratio to hit the tank. And I'm like, this is amazing. This is like cyberpunk at its best. Like, oh, hey, we're going to protect democracy. Get the kids with their toys and give them grenades.
Yeah, Cory Doctorow has got to be watching all of this and being like, I'm going to crank off another 3 books on this.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say it is, we talked about how Elon Musk like single-handedly helped the war effort, like just by sending them internet. He's like, here you go. Here's the internet. They're like, okay, we're better than Russia now because we have internet and they don't. It's so weird how a crazy small thing like this can make such a huge difference. I mean, I do a little bit worry about the dangers of like, targeting, I guess. I mean, well, I don't know.
Well,
what if you accidentally put
the guy
What if you put your own drone in follow me mode and it's just chasing you? Like, oh, I hope it runs out of battery before it kills
or you're like testing the fit of the fins on your grenade in your basement before you let it go. Yeah.
I mean, it's a weird world. I just hope that at some point, whenever they started taking Starlinks to like Zelensky, and they're like, this Zelensky is the internet.
Yes.
Well, it seems small. Well, it doesn't weigh anything. There's no wires. It's wireless. You know, I
The
hope
Hawk
that
gave it to us.
Yeah, we got it from the Hawk himself. I hope that conversation happened in Ukraine. But on the drone thing, have you also been reading the news stories from Taiwan? Because apparently Taiwan is seeing everything that's going on in Ukraine. And the thing that they're taking from all of this is drones are freaking awesome.
Yep.
And they're like, we're Taiwan. Like, we can make drones that drop bombs. So how do you even deal with that, right? Like from a threat perspective, you're trying to attack a country.
There's been a lot of stuff that's related to this. So first of all, this is just kind of like guerrilla warfare 101, right? So I mean, how do you take, how can you improvise, right?
everything,
right? And so, but the drone attack, right? So small aerial drones, like the consumer drones. I know the U.S. federal government has known about this, and the military has known about this for a while, and they've actually developed platforms to actually bring these things down, right? Jam communication, all the other fun stuff, right? But it's overall, we're going to see more of it, right? And even if it's just from a non-lethal standpoint, just the intel of knowing where people are so that you can move the right people in place to take out units is huge, right? So there's a lot to be there, but obviously, for example, the U.S. government's been flying bigger drones and all this other stuff, and that's great, but they're very expensive. Whereas these other drones that are still getting the latest ones are getting almost an hour of flight time. Like with enough batteries, you can just fly this thing 24/7, man.
They're also cheap and they're easy to oh, your drone crashed because someone threw a jar of pickles at it. You better just send up another one. No big deal.
No one cares.
And I was seeing that with some of these 3D printed ones, they were actually, rather than using standard transmitters on the 2.4 gigahertz frequency, there's instructions out there specifically from this effort to put them on higher, less common frequencies and variable frequencies so that your standard Wi-Fi jammer can't take it down.
Anti-jamming drones are definitely going to be something that starts to evolve, right? Radio frequency hopping, other things like that to continue to fly that and operate. And it's the whole thing. I got the buster. I got the buster. Just continuing just over and over again, right?
The thing that makes me smile though is this is all still Hedy Lamarr. Hedy Lamarr and torpedoes during World War II. How do we actually detonate our torpedoes with a signal if they go off course going towards something? And, that spreads, what is it? Spread spectrum frequency hopping, which is a mouthful for me. We're still doing that, right? It's in cell phones and everything. And now with drones, we're right back to the same problem. How do we stop the jamming of drones? And all this technology is still in place. And I don't know why, but I just think that that's awesome.
Yeah. It's evolving, but
I just imagine the meeting where some Russian general has to explain to Putin that they're losing because of YouTuber drones, and I can't really just the frustration of being they drop grenades on our heads.
Where did they get the grenades? From us.
We gave them to them.
We gave them the grenades.
We left the road mines on the road. They take the road mines, flip them upside down, put them on drones, and drop them on
us.
We can't win.
I swear to God, if it wasn't so horrific, it would be Looney Tunes, right?
It would, 100%. It'd be Wile E. Coyote opening the Acme box going, oh, look at this.
Yeah.
Think about it. How many things have we had in this war that fit that? The farmers stealing tanks,
with tractors.
It's almost like a continuation of the comedy series about him becoming president in the first place. I can't remember what the name of it. Servant of the People. It's just a continuation, except once again, horribly, horribly tragic. But there's just these weird things. So White Cyberduck said, I hope Taiwan starts buying some tractors.
Also, another lesson to learn from this war is don't drive your tanks through a bunch of mud, right? Getting stuck is really bad. It's kind of ending for the whole tank, and that's all you got too, just a bunch of tanks. So
Yeah, Russia's fighting like it's 1997, and Ukraine's fighting like it's 2033.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
But
and you
Ukrainian
guarantee
guerrilla
there's a
warfare.
conversation somewhere where they're like, "Oh, they're not playing by the rules." Like, yes, that's the point.
That is-
Well, and it's got to be nice for America because we always say that we're good at fighting the last war. We're really good at fighting the last war. And it looks like Russia was really good at fighting 4 wars back.
Cold War, I think it was. They're ready for that one. Yeah.
So
There's still the same one, though.
Oh, and Jay Poodle's talking about some people poisoning the Russian soldiers with pies. That's pretty.
It's like, yeah, again, the Looney Tunes thing. Russian soldier going through the countryside, his tank stuck in the mud. He's just walking around. Oh, look, a freshly baked pie. What should I do? Should I eat
There's
it?
no way this will end poorly for me.
What could go wrong? I'll just take a bite. I'm dead.
The best part is Zelensky dressed up as Bugs Bunny baking a pie going, "No, it's good here. Thank you for coming."
So, but all of this, I think that what this is doing is and we tie it back to computer security, is like if we're looking at, battlefields of the future, now you're looking at remote internet terminals like Starlink, and how do you deal with those? You're looking at like how do you deal with drones and these types of things? I think the concept of war just got a lot more complicated moving forward. So,
yeah. Good luck. I mean, good luck, Ukraine. Good luck, Russia. Whatever your goals are, that something's not going to plan no matter which side you're on.
Yeah, it definitely seems like Ukraine is having a much better go of it at the moment.
Sorting it out, just sorting out all the war crimes and all the. I mean, man, it's going to be a long tribunal.
Yeah, it is. And White Cyber Duck, I think, has the best quote to close it out. The Russian soldiers should have been suspicious after they were also handed some sunflowers. Once again, totally straight out of something like Looney Tunes, right? Like just crazy. So with that, everybody, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate it. Ryan, take us out.